All right, today we're going to do something a little different, removing beyond just hoping for the best or getting lucky. Instead, we are going to reverse engineer the hidden mechanics that are running the show, everywhere from inside our own heads to the entire global stage. The goal here is to stop just reacting to the world and start building for stability.
So think about it for a second. What if you could stop treating life like a gamble, constantly feeling stressed out and just reacting to whatever comes your way? What if, instead, you could actually be the house, the one who understands the math, who sets the probabilities, and who builds the entire system for stability?
In basically any system, your career, the economy, you name it, you've got two ways you can engage. You can be the gambler, living in this temporary, high-stress state where you're always just a slave to chance. Or you can be the house, operating from a permanent trait of stability, because you get the underlying rules. And that's the whole point of this, right? Making that leap from a reactive state to a stable, engineered trait.
So how do we even begin to do that? Well, we've got to start small, like really small. We're going right inside our own brains. Because it turns out there's a way to override the mind's default panic mode, its internal glitch, and turn it into a high-performance physics engine. Okay, so how does this override actually work? Well, when we're under a lot of stress, a part of our brain, the default mode network, can kind of glitch out. It fuses the feeling of isolation with the feeling of failure, and you get stuck in this nasty loop. But a cognitive tool called 3D visual thinking lets you reframe that completely. Instead of a personal flaw, that fear just becomes data. It's like telemetry coming off a race car. And just like that, stress stops being a personal failure you have to suffer through, and it becomes a physics calculation, a problem to be solved. And this quote, man, it just nails it. The anxiety or the instability you might feel, that isn't a sign that your engine is busted. No way. It's a signal that your high-performance chassis is missing a critical component, like an aerodynamic wing that it needs to handle high speeds. You're not the glitch. You're the F1 car, just waiting for the right engineer to set it up properly. All right, so from here, we can actually build this out into something way more concrete, because this isn't just a cool metaphor, right? We can actually describe this system with a simple, elegant equation that governs stability and performance. And here it is. This is the whole ball game right here. Instability, whether that's you feeling burned out or a whole market crashing, happens when your velocity is greater than your infrastructure. Put simply, it's when your speed, your ambition, and your raw capacity outrun your support structures. This is the math the house uses. So let's put some numbers to this to make it real. In this model, your velocity is the X variable. Just think of it as your personal engine, your drive, your talent, your independence. Let's give it a pretty high value, say 85. That's a powerful engine, just humming with potential. But here's the catch. All that speed, it needs something to balance it out. That's your infrastructure, the Y variable. This is your support network, your stabilizing connections, that aerodynamic wing we were talking about, and we'll score that at a 38. Without it, that powerful engine isn't going anywhere fast. It's just spinning its wheels and creating a ton of turbulence. And this leads to a fundamental truth, an axiom you just can't ignore. Having all that capacity, all that horsepower is not just useless, it's actually dangerous if you don't have an open road, the infrastructure to channel it. Trying to go fast on a closed road doesn't lead to progress. It leads to a crash. Okay, so stick with me here because this is where it gets really fascinating. We're going to zoom all the way out and apply this exact same equation, this exact same physics, not just to one person, but to the entire planet. If you look at the 2026 Global Risks Report from the World Economic Forum, they're basically saying the same thing. They're calling our current time the age of competition, which is a nice way of saying an era of intense confrontation and collapsing trust. In other words, the entire global system is hitting the accelerator, speeding straight into instability. So, let's just recap the personal equation real quick. You've got high velocity, that fierce independence and talent, but it requires the infrastructure of connection and support to stay stable. When your velocity of 85 outpaces your infrastructure of 38, the result is personal turbulence and a whole lot of stress. Now, look at the global scale. It's the exact same physics, just with different variables. The world's velocity is dangerously high, pushed by geoeconomic conflict and blistering tech acceleration. But at the exact same time, the infrastructure, things like trust, cooperation, and shared rules, is absolutely collapsing. The imbalance is so massive that experts are calling it a global polycrisis.
And this chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. Geoeconomic confrontation is through the roof, while the cooperation needed to manage it has cratered. The world is trying to drive at top speed on a road that's completely closed off, and it's generating massive systemic instability.
So, okay, if the whole game is rigged for instability, both for you and for the entire world, what do you do? How do you win? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. You stop playing the game. And you start building the house. You start architecting for stability. So personally, the strategy is something called structural coupling. And this is key. It's not about slowing down. It's not about reducing your ambition. It's about strategically stacking your high-speed chassis with the right infrastructure, that aerodynamic wing, that allows you to handle your own speed and literally turn turbulence into grip. And what's incredible is that you see the exact same playbook on the world stage. Now that broad global cooperation is failing, the new strategy is minilateralism. It's about forming smaller, more agile, high-trust alliances. These little pockets of effectiveness are the geopolitical version of structural coupling, designed to create stability in an otherwise chaotic world. So at the end of the day, what this whole framework shows us is pretty profound. Whether you're trying to figure out your own internal stress or navigate this volatile world, the path forward is exactly the same. It demands a fundamental shift in how you see things, away from being a player who just reacts to chance and toward being the architect who designs for stability. So I'll leave you with this question. In this age of turbulence, are you going to keep playing the game, or are you going to start building the house?